On April 3rd, 2026, a U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down over western Iran. The aircraft was struck by a shoulder-fired surface-to-air missile, most likely an Iranian-produced Misaj-2 or a Russian Igla-S variant that Iran has in large numbers. These infrared homing manpads are deadly against low to medium altitude aircraft, especially during vulnerable moments like an egress after a strike. The F-15 was flying as part of a strike package targeting Iranian ballistic missile storage sites, production facilities, and IRGC command nodes in western Iran. Flying lower for better accuracy and to avoid higher altitude defenses put it squarely in the effective range of these portable missiles. Both crew members ejected successfully. What followed was one of the most dramatic combat search and rescue operations in recent U.S. military history. The pilot was located and rescued within about 7 hours. The weapons systems officer, however, remained missing in hostile territory for nearly 48 hours before being extracted on April 5th. The weapons system officer, a colonel, was unusually senior for a combat sortie in an F-15E. While senior officials do sometimes fly on high-threat or complex missions where their experience is critical, it's not common. He was likely serving as a mission commander or overseeing a particularly sensitive part of the strike package. After ejecting, the colonel was injured. Reports mention an ankle injury and significant bleeding. But immediately, he began evading capture. He hiked and climbed a grueling 7,000-foot ridgeline in the Zagros mountain foothills, moving only at dusk and dawn to avoid detection. Despite his wounds, he found a hiding spot in a mountain crevice and carefully managed his emergency beacon. U.S. forces ultimately located him using a combination of his standard Combat Survivor Evader Locator, or CSEL beacon, and reportedly a new highly classified tool capable of detecting human heartbeats from a distance through electromagnetic signatures and AI. Whether the heartbeat detection system was a decisive or even a part of a layered approach remains partially classified. Iranian IRGC units and local militias launched an aggressive hunt, with bounties reportedly offered for information leading to the airmen. The rescue operation itself was an insane feat of civil and aviation engineering under fire. U.S. Special Forces established a temporary forward operating base on an abandoned agricultural airstrip in difficult, muddy terrain. Helicopters were disassembled in cargo aircraft, flown in, and reassembled on site. Multiple aircraft, including MC-130 transports and AH-MH-6 Little Bird helicopters, got stuck in the soft ground and had to be deliberately destroyed to prevent capture. The entire effort involved over 150 aircraft, hundreds of personnel from Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and other units, as well as intense, close air support. Several U.S. aircraft were lost or damaged during the operation. Around the same period, the U.S. had also deployed significant additional ground forces to the region. Thousands of Marines from the 31st and 11th Marine Expeditionary Units arrived aboard amphibious assault ships, like the USS Tripoli and USS Boxer, signaling a heightened readiness for a potential larger operation if needed. The intense fighting also strained U.S. missile defenses. To replenish interceptors used up defending against Iranian barrages, the United States redirected THAAD interceptor missiles from South Korea and other locations. This move raised serious concerns in Seoul among Pacific strategists about leaving key areas temporarily more vulnerable to other threats. In the days after the dramatic rescue, Iran escalated its economic warfare. They not only continued attempts to close the Strait of Hormuz, but also launched attacks on bypass infrastructure, including a strike on Saudi Arabia's critical East-West pipeline, the very contingency route Saudi Arabia had ramped up to full capacity, pumping millions of barrels of oil per day across the country to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. Iran also deployed naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz, creating long-term hazards that complicated any reopening of the waterway. These actions caused further spikes in global oil prices and strained U.S. allies in the Gulf. The conflict also heightened a new reality in modern warfare. Even with advanced layered defenses, the combination of ballistic missiles and massive drone barrages means some attacks will always get through. Iran's adaptation, mixing cheaper drones as decoys with more advanced missiles, proved that saturation tactics can overwhelm even the best systems, forcing defenders to expend extremely expensive interceptors, some cases $4 million apiece, inflicting real damage. Diplomatic efforts led to a fragile conditional ceasefire around April 7th through April 8th. But Israel conducted limited follow-on strikes, drawing public frustration from President Trump, who warned that such actions could derail the broader agreement. Looking ahead, while some voices still call for a ground invasion, most analysts would agree that it would likely end in a strategic defeat for the invaders. Iran's vast terrain, deeply dug-in forces, massive missile and drone stockpiles, and potential for prolonged asymmetric warfare would make any occupation extremely costly in lives, treasure, and global economic stability. The dramatic downing and rescue of the two American aviators became one of the defining human stories of the entire conflict. It showed both the extreme risks of these military operations and the extraordinary lengths the U.S. military will go to bring its people home. And in true Hollywood fashion, director Michael Bay is already set to direct a feature film based on this rescue mission for Universal Pictures, based on an upcoming book by Mitchell Zuckoff. Expect explosions. This concludes our three-part series on the 2024 to 2026 air war between Israel, the United States, and Iran. Thanks for watching all the way through. If this series helped you understand what really happened, hit like, subscribe, and let me know what conflict or historical event you'd like covered next. Stay curious.